Shalom. First, I start off by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem, Rakakadash. The honor to teachers, elders, and apostles of great millstone, likewise, brothers, put on this truth. Faithfully, fearlessly feeding the sheep and dear brothers and sisters. Putting in Shalom, today's lesson is titled A Test of Faith. Now, there's not going to be any flashy animation or video shown in this lesson. This is a basic lesson that's going into, certain situations or scenes in certain brothers' life, including myself, because we're still walking in this flesh on this earth, and you're still dealing with the masses out there. And, it's just those days that you have that just aren't as good as other days. Let's go into the book of Psalms 55 and Psalms 22, and it reads, Cast thy burden upon the Lord, Yahweh Shemashai, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. And, when you're dealing with the people of this world, the lack of knowledge of what's taking place, and in particular when you're talking about the children of Israel, so-called blacks, Native Americans, and Latinos, their lack of knowledge or their ignorance to what's taking place, despite all of the warnings that's coming from the man of the Lord, it can concern you a lot, because deep down, really on the surface, from what you see, you know that there's a great change that's taking place right now, and it's going to be a change for the worse, but also a change for the better, And we know, and I'm speaking myself, that there's a great test, a real actual test that we're going to have to go through called Jacob's trouble. And each and every one of us have a particular role that we're going to play, or a particular fate, F-A-T-E, that we would have to endure. You could very well be the brother that's going to be facing the guillotine, or in one of these internment camps, or dealing with other things out there. But these people that we try to teach, they don't seem to be concerned at all. They don't seem to be concerned at all, and they're spending more time trying to attack the ministry versus in lending that air, and that's okay. This is what we were told was going to happen. This is 2 Corinthians 2 in verse 14. It reads, Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship had righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion had light with darkness? And you try to live a life where you could avoid people that are delusional. They're incredibly worldly, and yet they still crossing your path, and you have to always keep remembering these people are blind. There's a lot of time you want to have that slip of the tongue, where you might say Yahweh Hashem Yahushai to them, and they clearly wouldn't know what that is. They clearly wouldn't understand that they're a target of persecution. That the higher power that the world likes to worship is not the image that Esau, the so-called white man, is showing people. So-called white man. It's really a so-called black man, but they're looking at you, and of course they've been tainted, by the worldly view of who the righteous people really are, and what you are as a Hebrew Israelite on this earth, being in a low place. Continuing, it says, and what concord had Hamashiach with Belial, or what part had he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement had the temple of power with idols? For ye are the temple of the living power, as power had said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their power, and they should be my people. So even though you have to deal with the people out here and you have to deal with life, you might have to, engage in a business dealings with, individuals that are known to be corrupt or shady, based on reviews, and their deliverables are no good. You still know that the Lord Yahweh Shemashai have your back. He has you. He's not going to allow you to, spin off and react to things like how the people in the world do. It says, wherefore come from among them and be ye separate, said the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing that will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and you should be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. So you always have to have that faith. Okay, like a lot of the brothers go into, like, you gotta pray and constantly, because we were in the world, and sometimes these people, they can irritate the shit out of you, man, and you wanna have some fun reacting in a way that really goes against what we've been told how to deal with. Just throw curses on them. This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 20 reads, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and I will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord Yahweh Shemashai answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that read it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it shall surely come. It will not tarry. Okay? So our duty still is to go out there and preach this gospel, in season, out season. Sometimes you might be standing on the side of the road. Sometimes you might have to go behind a building. Maybe you might have to, if it's adverse weather condition or whatever the case is like that, you might have to go do it in your living room or wherever you can do it. But nonetheless, we have to bring it out, whatever we were given us the ability to bring it out. Okay, and we all have different abilities. This is 2 Ezra 15 and verse 3, and it reads, fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. We got a whole lot of that going on, and they really don't have no grounds in which they're doing it, because really what they're looking at is, if they could please the rulers of Great Babylon, America, somehow they can get a pass on the harassment or persecution that this man is setting up to bring upon the children of Israel. Okay, we expect, the heathen tribes, we expect them to, look and have doubt of who we really are. Okay, which is the true biblical Hebrew Israelites, the children of the Most High, Yahweh Shemashai. But within our own people, they're relentless in just wanting to keep the status quo, so to speak, which is being at the bottom and not making Massa Esau piss. Okay, and the word incredulity means the state of being unwilling or unable to believe something, and people cannot believe. We're the prophets, and people are unwilling to believe that the Most High and the Son, okay, the Mashiach, are so-called black men. Okay, a so-called black man, and the true Hebrew Israelites on this earth are the people that people hate the most. Okay, starting with the Southern tribe, okay, the so-called Negro, okay, and then going to the Northern Kingdom tribe, okay, which are the Latinos and Hispanics and the Native Americans. Okay, this is Luke 16. And verse 13, it says, no servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold the one and despise the other. You can serve power and mammon, and you're still going to be dealing with Esau out here. He still holds a card, he still holds a job, he still holds the money. He has a system, and we know he's about to take the system to the next level, in which people right now, if they think that they're really trying to worship the so-called white man, they are going to be forced to do that. Okay, when we know he comes out with that MOTB. But as the righteous, okay, the hopefully elect, we understand that the flesh has to serve the earthly master, for substance and the other things like that. You have to be extra pleasant and cautious of what you say and how you act and everything like that. But our heart belongs to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And in reality, clearly our lessons display exactly how we truly feel about the so-called white man. Okay, let's go into 2 Timothy chapter 4, and verse 2. It reads, preach the word, be instant, in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. Even with things that's plaguing your mind. You might not be physically sick or you might not be physically hurt, but your mind is plagued. Them demons are coming to your head for all kinds of things. The cloud is covering the sunlight. It's too hot. You paid for something and you didn't get what you thought you were going to get or what you paid for, and it's just all those things and just impact your spirit, man. And this is why this lesson is called a test of faith. Okay, you got to believe what you're doing. Okay, it's going to get that reward. It says, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fable. But watch thou in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, make full proof of thy ministry. So I think it's easier for Jakes to believe that, there's this good, sweet Jesus that's going to save you from the devil under the ground when you die and all that stuff, and everybody can be saved, including Esau the Edomite, the so-called white man, which that the Lord Yahweh Shai hates him. Okay, he loves us, and you see what he did with us. So imagine what he's going to do with Esau. And really, people just can't believe that the so-called white man at some point in time is going to lose his rulership, his kingdom, and they're going to become slaves and then eventually written out of existence. Okay, they can't believe that. They don't want it. They don't want it. All right. And this is why, let's close it with Luke here. This is Luke chapter 9, start verse 1. Okay, it says, then he called his 12 disciples together to Mashiach and gave them power and authority over all devils and to cure diseases. And he sent them to preach the kingdom of power and to heal the sick. And he said unto them, take nothing for your journey, neither staves, nor scrip, neither bread, neither money, neither have 2 coats apiece. So we're not going to set up tables with cookies and milk and free waters and, spin this wheel and win a prize and, lottery drawings and all kinds of other extra gimmick just to get the views and to get the likes and to get the crowd around you, because they're not going to be around you for the truth. They're going to be around you for the substance, the free shit, So, we go plain, plain, just the gospel, that's it. Okay, and it says, and whatsoever house you enter, there abide and thence depart. And whosoever will not receive you when you go out of that city, shake off the dust from your feet for a testimony against them. So just ignore. Okay, you can stand out there every week, and nobody will stop. Nobody cares. And you could put up video after video that you could spend hours doing, and you're doing the work, and nobody gives a crap. And that's just the end of that. And that's part of that test of faith. Okay, because the reward doesn't come from man. It doesn't come from your brother or sister. It comes from the Mashiach. It comes from the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And that's why we have to continue to endure until the end. So Lord willing, the elect was edified, of course, by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushai Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Shalom.